Hi everyone. Welcome to the ManHealth office. There's usually a few more people in than there is at the moment, so it's an unusually quiet moment. So we've taken the opportunity, haven't we, to just flick the camera on and have a chat. Totally unplanned. We're just going to see where the conversation leads us. So I'm Kevin from ManHealth, and
I'm Paul from ManHealth, and hello everybody.
Great. So yeah, we just thought we'd, as I say, flick the camera on. We've got a cup of tea. Normally, when we go in front of the camera, we've got something to talk about. We've delivered a training session, or we've got some message to get across, haven't we? But we purposely haven't in this one. So just we'll open up the conversation with a little bit about the start of ManHealth, and maybe you can kick us off there, Paul. How it all started.
Yeah, I mean, ManHealth started back in 2015. I had this idea that it would be great to have an opportunity to speak to other men who'd been on my journey. I was really struggling at that point with major life transitions that were making me think about. In fact, I was having suicide ideation at that point, and I just felt it would be great to have somebody with that lived experience who understood my journey. At that point, I believed that no one would understand my journey wrongly. That's how my depression was making me think. And I was lucky enough to get some funding from the Paul Hamlin Foundation. So a big shout out to the Paul Hamlin Foundation to do a feasibility study, which I carried out with a colleague from Manchester University for over a year. Interviewed hundreds and hundreds of guys. But this is back in the day before there was loads and loads and any men's groups back then. That there were nationally recognised. I'm sure there were men's groups in some form. So we did this feasibility study, and then I pitched that to the National Lottery, and the National Lottery funded the project back in 2017. So it was fantastic that they looked at the feasibility study. The lottery recognised the massive need for this sort of intervention, and that's the story of how we set up. From a small idea that came from my darkest moment, probably.
It must have been
health, yeah.
It must have been. I've heard it described that when men are going through mental health difficulties, it's like you're standing on your own little island, and you must have taken a bit of a leap of faith there to think there must be other men standing on their own little islands, because you wouldn't have known what was out there. Is that right?
No, I didn't know, because at that point I was totally being very insular. I was keeping my feelings to myself. The typical bloke, not even admitting to myself or anybody else that I was really, really struggling. But I sort of had this. Yeah, it was a leap of faith, but I did know that it can't only be me. Obviously, I was aware of the male suicide figures back then. So I did have an inclination that there was a need for something, and hence the feasibility study.
Because I'm automatically thinking to probably all seen the Alan Bates post office thing where he put on that first meeting and he was thinking, no one's going to come, no one's going to. So what was your first?
Well, exactly that. We were sat. We set up the first meeting very, very early 2017, and we had no idea who was going to turn up. It was a voluntary drop in, so we had no idea. Interestingly enough, we did get blokes just hanging around outside the door. So I was basically outside the door, ushering them in, but almost like a shepherd's crook. Yeah, come on in. The meeting was all planned. We were all ready to go. We knew what the structure of the meeting would be, but yeah, I think we had 8 or 9 blokes turn up on the first evening from all over the County Durham area. So we were really excited. We knew then that we were possibly onto something.
Was there a moment, I suppose, after that initial setup where it kind of went bang, and you thought, wow, the need is bigger than even I thought?
Yeah, well, it was that first evening when we had guys who travelled from miles and miles to come to the group, to a small village in County Durham. The fact that, and then in that first meeting, these guys were saying, "This is amazing. We need we've been looking for something like this. I think some of the come. I remember the first guys that came. I'm still in touch with them now. And you know, David and Tom and people like that, and Win, and they all said, "Yeah, we've been looking for something like this." So that sort of reaffirmed that we were onto something. Obviously, the peer support groups have changed dramatically over the last 6, 7 years. Like things changed, the whole structure of the groups, how we do things. Yeah, everything's changed, but yeah, the basic idea still is there. The ethos is still there. We're just trying to help that one man. You know what I mean, and trying to get them to take responsibility for their own health and well-being. That was always the ethos. To give them the tools to improve their own health and well-being.
So what should have prepped you for this, and I haven't. But what's been the biggest difference between that you can see out there in the sphere of men's health that from 2015 to now? What because you must have. It's one of those things where things change gradually, so you don't notice it, or are you thinking, "Wow, this is massively different to 8 years ago."
Well, yeah. Now we look around. We've got organisations like Andy's Man Club who came into the field. We've got Talk Club. We've got organisations, the Man Gang. We've got all men's groups now in almost every area. Men's health is now being spoken about. Male suicide is now spoken about regularly. Where back in 2016, 2017, it wasn't there. Men's health didn't figure, and the fact that we're going out to organisations across the country now to deliver training on men's health inequalities, and getting booked by some major blue chip companies. These people in HR are recognizing that they've got to engage the men in the workforce. All that's changed. The fact that Wes Streeting, the Shadow Health Minister, is committed to appointing a men's health minister, which we desperately need in this country. Men's health inequalities in this country are so bad. And I always say to people that men's health in this country is probably where women's health was 30, 40 years ago when they introduced all the interventions to increase women's health. And women's health has come on a great deal, still a long way to go in terms of improving women's health. It's not it's but men's health is in real crisis, as you know. And there's now a little more recognition of the crisis in man's health, in male health, but there's a long way to go.
It's something that we hear a lot, isn't it? When we're out and about, is people saying it's getting better, but we've still got a long way to go. Is that?
Yeah,
You echo that?
yeah. I would think we're only scratching the surface. I mean, we've had 10, 15 years of raising awareness about suicide, and uh, there's a lot of things I disagree with. We're almost blaming men for encouraging men to speak up. We don't do that. I'm really against that. What we need to do is we need to create spaces where men feel comfortable enough for them to be listened to, and stop saying you need to speak up, you need to talk, because that understanding of men and how they're feeling, and when they get these transitions, they're not going to speak up, and why should they? Why should they? We need to have systems and policies in place to ensure that services and the like and support the men in our community. We're integral, by the way. I think there's slowly becoming a realization that, do we just look at boys' education or crime or anything? But there's a realization that men are integral to our society. Absolutely integral. They're the stalwarts of our society. They build our country. Without men in our country, we nothing. And I think men have been a little bit devalued, and we need to recognise how integral men are in our children's lives. Certainly our children's lives. Certainly in promoting education, being role models. There's that realization. Yeah. So it's a long way to go, an absolutely long way to go. And we look at men's health, and we talk extensively about men's health, and suicide, rightly so, is mentioned a lot. Male suicide, on average, we're probably losing 13, 14 men a day, which is absolutely a tragedy. When we look at heart disease, it's 75% of all deaths from premature heart disease are men. Men are 40% more likely to die from cancer than women. And things like that. There's huge numbers of men dying from prostate cancer, the lack of awareness around prostate cancer, the lack of health literacy in men, the failure in our services to reach these men. There's such a long way to go.
I mean, that's something that I've been working for around about a year, slightly less than a year, and I would say that's the thing that sticks out for me is that I've been on a really steep learning curve, but that health literacy is probably the thing that makes me think, wow, you don't know what you don't know. So it was only when you start researching and understanding, you think, okay, so I didn't understand when I wasn't well. I didn't understand how to keep well. But then how would I? No one ever had a chat with me. No one ever sat me down and said, think about this, think about that, think about this for your physical health, think about this for your mental health. It doesn't exist. It was that I think for me has been the biggest thing since I started at ManHealth is that there's almost there's almost a feeling that an assumption that guys know this stuff.
Yeah.
But they really don't.
But then it does not go full circle then? Does it not say that we need, your father traditionally always used to teach you how to share? You know what I mean? And now we haven't got these father figures in our society. There's so many young boys coming from homes where there's no father figure, no role model. These things maybe, not necessarily, but definitely should, but education as well. You mentioned rightly so that there's no education in schools around simple things like the prostate or checking your testicles. You know what I mean? With testicular cancer being the most common cancer in men aged between 20 and 40 or young men. Surely that should be our priority is giving young boys that education, so they can take responsibility for their own health and get them engaged in our health system, so we can vastly improve men's health. It needs to be done, and then we look at our close neighbours. We only have to look across the water to the Republic of Ireland. I think I'm right in saying they introduced a men's health minister back in 2022, and within 18 months or 2 years. It might have been 2020, but within a fairly short period of time, the life expectancy of men increased by up to a year, just by implementing certain policies. So it can be done, and I mean, we know by going out, and people will be shocked by this, that the healthy life expectancy of a man in the United Kingdom is 63.6 years of age,
in Europe, yeah,
the lowest in Europe, yeah. And obviously, the reason we're doing this chat today is really because to raise awareness of Men's Health Week. I mean, it's great that we are having a Men's Health Week. It's great that we have a month dedicated to men's health in November. But men's health needs to be on the agenda of workplaces every single day. I mean, yeah. So yeah, and we going up and down the country next week to businesses talking about men's health. But that's our busiest time of the year, June and November. We're really busy doing these chats in business, and we really need to be out all the time raising these issues with men.
Consistency of message and all that. Yeah. You alluded next week, Men's Health Week. I'm going to make you king for a day next week, or prime minister for a day, decision maker for a day, whatever you want. If you could wave your magic wand, wizard for a day, wave your magic wand, what one thing would you like to see change overnight if you had the power to do so?
Well, that is a really challenging question. There's all sorts of things, I'd like to, you could go on eradicating world poverty, stopping all the wars in the country.
In relation to men's health,
in relation to men's health, obviously, in relation to men's health, I think, I just think finding somewhere to increase that male health literacy, making men much more aware of the situation that we're in. So, the appointment of the men's health minister, we are appointing a men's health ambassador, get a men's health minister, get a men and boys health strategy is crucial. we are losing way too many of our men. One man in five dying before the age of 65 is tragedy, absolute tragedy. And when I first came across that stat when we were doing the feasibility study, it was a jaw-dropping moment for me. When my father died at the age of 64 um, with cancer, he had a year suffering with cancer. I thought he was a relatively young man when he died. So yeah, it's just I think that health minister would give us the impetus to get into schools to talk to boys and talk to men and raise that literacy, and that can only be to the benefit of the wider society, generally, because we are very, very important. We play an important role in society as fathers, as role models. We do play an important and integral role in communities. So I'm going to flip this over a little bit here because I feel like I'm doing all the talking. But from a personal point of view, what brought you to ManHealth, and tell us a little bit about your journey because that would be, yes. I mean, I know your story, but I guess that would be indicative of typical man who comes to our group.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't know you were going to do that, but no, yeah. So my story, um, I don't think it's unique. I think that's the first thing. So look, hindsight's a wonderful thing, obviously. So I think I've had poor mental health from as long as I can remember. But I do sort of partition it off in my mind to um, the 20s. I went going to university in the 20s, and university was great. Absolutely loved it. But I had some really, really dark times. But at that point, you're partying, and you put it down to being tired, drinking too much, partying too much. So there was a reason that sort of masked and explained why I was feeling why I was feeling. Fast forward a little bit, and then you I got married at 25, and um, my wife's great, but I think
Please, you said that.
yeah, she's great, but I think again, I reflect on her quite a bit, and I talk to her quite a bit as well. And I think like
You said that.
at the age of 25, like I think I was probably looking
Very
for
young.
someone
Yeah, very
to
young.
help us out. Um, and what I actually did was find some double the amount of people that I was responsible for myself, but also responsible for her. So
Still a very young man.
yeah, so I didn't really know. So I found the late 20s more difficult because I felt a bigger burden, a bigger responsibility to keep two people happy, one of them being me. Another one came along at the age of 30. I have to be really careful how I word this because, my mental health plummeted after my daughter was born at 30. Because of that, all of a sudden now you've got three people to be responsible for, but you're a
That increased responsibility, isn't it? And
yeah,
a lot of young fathers really struggle with that.
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
That would be question.
But it's so if you've got poor mental health underlying anyway, you've got added responsibility, next zero sleep, I was lucky. I had and still do have a really good support network, but I found it when I found it tough. My go-to coping strategy, like most blokes, is an unhealthy one. It was alcohol for me. So my alcohol consumption, my drinking, steadily increased, and I was drinking more and more as I sort of got to 30s, mid 30s. And that was the point when I thought, I remember having half an eye on turning 40 and thinking, surely 40 has got to be better than 30. 30 wasn't better than 20, and I just thought, I'm not making improvements. I feel like I'm
So I'm
getting
arguing that,
worse.
over 20 years of looking at your situation, realizing you weren't happy at many points in that time, and still you didn't come to reach out for a support group or
No, like
anything in life. It was many years later after that, I guess.
yeah, sort of I can't remember exactly how old I was, but it would have been 36, 37, something like that, where I kind of thought, and my wife thought as well, enough's enough, something's got to give here, because this is this existence, and that's what it is. It's an existence, isn't it? You know, it's not a lived
Yeah,
in, it's unfulfilled. It robs you of the joy of that you should be experiencing. So at that point, we often say, don't we? And it is really brave for guys to walk through the door in our peer support groups. It's the bravest thing they'll ever do. For me, when I reflect back, I was at a point where I just think I'll try anything. I didn't feel brave. I thought, why not?
yeah,
I've tried to manage it myself for 10, 15 years. Well, and it hasn't really worked. Why not? So that's when I walked through the door, and that's when I started learning about yourself. Really powerful,
really,
isn't it? Really
really tough.
powerful.
Yeah, it's tough.
You've got to be in a secure place to do it. But that's when you look back and think, wow.
Yeah,
And this is what um, we do this in our training sessions, don't we?
yeah,
You get lost in the storm. You don't recognize yourself. I certainly wouldn't have recognized myself as being
yeah.
ill looking back, but now when you learn and you research and you raise awareness and you educate yourself,
Yeah, it's
you
really
look
important.
back and you think,
It's
"Bloody hell."
I mean, again, that's the ethos of ManHealth. Giving people the tools and giving them the space and asking them to do that tough thing, which is to look inside yourself. What do you want to change? We'll support you on that journey. And we'll certainly, with the community we've got and with the accountability from the other guys in the group, but you've got to do it. You've got to be prepared to do it. You've got to be prepared to make them changes, and tough changes, leaving jobs, possibly leaving relationships. You know what I mean?
Changing social circles.
Changing your friends, changing your social circle, changing your habits. These are tough things to do, really tough things to do. And and kudos to all the men who do that. They're the men who get the most out of the group because they've accepted that they can't continue the way they continue and they make that change. And that gives me the greatest joy when I still run my group. I still run a group now, as you know, and I get great pleasure out of running the group. But what gives me the great pleasure is to see guys who come through the door and are prepared to make these changes, and then I see them 6, 8 months, a year later, and they just changed men, completely changed. They've made that change. They've started looking after themselves. They've started reducing their alcohol intake or cutting alcohol out altogether. Started exercising regularly. They're working on their relationships. They're building these relationships. They're spending time with their loved ones, and then you just see the glow and the life essence is returned to them, and that gives me the greatest pleasure.
Yeah, it's really
And you
powerful.
as a group leader yourself,
Yeah,
you
absolutely.
appreciate that.
Yeah. So, so we talked about setting Man Health up back how many years? 9 years ago. What's the next 9 years hold for Man Health, for men's health in general? What do you hope to see? And that's another big ask
It
to
is,
put on
man.
you.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I mean, I often think about the future. I mean, it'd be great if ManHealth continues to run when I'm retired and I'll be feet up. But yeah, I mean, I would really think. Like I mentioned, we've got to improve men's health in this country. We've got to get into schools. We've got to start interacting with the young boys. I mean, the situation in our schools is not good. The fact that I think it's 85% of primary schools haven't got a male teacher. 1 in 4 secondary schools haven't got male teachers. We need positive male role models in our schools, talking to these young boys, filling that vacuum that's been filled by that Chancellor Andrew Tate and the likes. We need to get in there and give positive messages about what it means to be a good man and a positive role model, and how integral that is to our community. There's lots of good men out there, really thousands and thousands of good men, and these good men need to step up and they need to 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 go into
platformed.
these. Yeah, they need to be platformed, and they need to be role models for our young men in our community, because that's how it always was, and that was always good. And we need to do a lot more of that. But yeah, and we need to continue raising health literacy in men. Desperately need to continue doing that. Yeah, and there's good role models in that area. There's really a lot of good influences and role models and talking about men's physical health. and mental health. I mean, there's lots of great podcasts that we listen to and refer to all the time. But yeah, we've got to continue the fight. It's not a zero-sum game. The improvement of men's health, not to the detriment of anybody else, but the improvement in men's health is to the benefit of everybody.
Yeah, and everyone can help. So listen, thanks for your. I've finished my cup of tea. Thanks for the chat. But if you want to learn about ManHealth, about the work that we're doing, our training courses, how you can get involved, how you can support the work that we're doing in the communities or up and down the country. If you think about doing training courses or interventions, get in touch, have a chat. We'd be happy to have a conversation because I think we agree. Everyone can do something to support our mission.
Without doubt, we'd be quite happy going in and talking about talking to your men in the workforce, encouraging them to adopt better health and help-seeking behaviour. So we can do that. You can come into your workplace and do specific training courses aimed at your men. Yeah, there's so much we can do. We need to take more responsibility for our men in the community. It's integral. Something needs to be done. And the Men's Health Week is a great platform for raising awareness of that. But like I said, it needs to continue. So thanks very much for listening to my ramblings today. And thanks to Kev for having me on this fireside chat on a warm summer's day. But yeah, I've enjoyed it, and hopefully it's give you more of an insight into ManHealth and what we do. It's all about reaching that one man. I mean, we were out training in businesses yesterday. I had a group last night, and it does save lives. What we do is saves lives. It just makes men think that, there's things that they need to address in their lives, and and raising that awareness is crucial.
Great. Great. Well, as great as Paul says, thanks very much for joining us. We put out some free content every month, so do keep checking back on our social media, our TikToks, our LinkedIn, our Facebooks. Keep in touch, reach out if you want to discuss anything that we've talked about today or got any ideas how we can work with you in future. Okay.
I'll buy some lovely white. I'm just looking at these. Are these lovely ManHealth t-shirts?
We look good side by side.
T-shirts. They didn't coordinate our wardrobe this morning, did they? So that's not good. But yeah.
Great. All right. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.